just like static data members, you can have static member functions. So these member functions can also be placed in scope of a class. For example, we can do something like this. Set origin, and this set origin will take a couple of integers and we'll be able to update our static data members. But notice that this function is also declared static. So in this case, static member function can access all static data members of our class. However, in any way, shape, or form, static functions can access normal member variables, simply because static functions, just like static data members, are at runtime, they exist outside of scope of any object. So they can be called without an object. They don't have this pointer, which we will discuss at some point later on, and they cannot refer or access any non-static data members. So when we say they can be called without an object, it's simply to demonstrate what we can do is somewhere in our main function we could say point, which is the name of the class, scope resolution operator, and go ahead and set origin and specify whatever origin we want. And you can see that normal member functions require the actual instance to be invoked, whereas a static function inside the class does not need an object. You can call it anytime and anywhere. So this is an example of our function. Of course, it still requires a definition, because right here this was only a declaration of a function. So let's copy and paste this. And of course, copy and paste happens all the time, but again, just like it was with static data members, again, when you define this static void set origin, and of course you need to provide the name of the class to properly explain to the compiler what scope this belongs to, and of course replacing the semicolon with some sort of implementation, which is something like this. And this, I think, is a little bit of a typo right here that we can fix in declaration right here. Okay, so yeah, and once again, if we try building this, all these latest modifications that we just tried, adding these new variables, you see that once again I get an error that complains about static. So once again, same rule applies for or to static member functions of classes, that in the definition of a member function we do not use static keyword. It needs to be either removed or commented out, just like I'm showing you, so that if you want to keep this style, you can just comment it out. But it has to be commented out. So now hopefully this will build without a problem. So it does build. And so I would strongly advise not to use the older syntax that would allow to call member functions, or rather static member functions, with the name of an object. So right here, if we try the same call, but this time use an existing object to make this call, pretending that this was just another regular member function. And if we build this, let me see if we get no, we don't get any warnings from the compiler, so it's possible to make a call like this. But it kind of like shadows the idea that this function is static. So I would still strongly advise using this style and be consistent about it. So this is really confusing. I think this should be a much better choice to use when you're calling your member functions. You can also look at the animated demo of member functions by downloading this file and running it. There's a tutorial inside this executable.